At patreon.com/the Bittersweet Life podcast, people who listen to this show provide valuable support to keep this show going and to help us pay the bills. We would love it if you would join them. For as little as $5 a month, it really puts our mind at ease. The more support we have, the stronger this show is, the better our footing. Particularly right now, we need your support in hiring editorial help. Someone to help me, your host, and your editor, and your producer, Katy, to help me edit the tape and keep the show coming to you in a very difficult time. So if you love the show and you can spare $5 a month or more, please join us at patreon.com/the Bittersweet Life podcast. You can also find other ways to support the show at thebittersweetlife.net. Visit there and click the support button. And now here's a sample of a bonus episode that just aired on our Patreon. This is a Bittersweet Life bonus episode. Hello, this is The Bittersweet Life. I'm Katy Sewell.
I'm Tiffany Parks.
And this is a bonus episode. Thank you so much for supporting the show. And Tiffany, today, just because this is so top of mind, as you know, I've been writing a book, a fiction book, for probably over 2 years now, I think. I'm not sure exactly how long, but it feels like a long, long, long time. And I know you guys listen to the regular episodes on a regular basis, that you've heard me year after year say, oh yeah, this is going to be the year I finish this book, and it hasn't been the year I finished it in my New Year's resolutions. However, I am now at the second to last chapter of the book, and it really does feel like, okay, we're getting down to it now. And it is still slow going because it's really hard to write the end of a book. But here's something I wanted to ask you about. Okay, so one of the scenes I had to write, and I'm not giving anything away if you do end up reading this book, which I hope you all will, is, in this second to last chapter, something very sad has to happen. Okay? And you know it from the very beginning when you read the book, but I'm not going to tell you what it is because I'm going to leave suspension. But anyway, something very sad has to happen. And you've also been, I don't know if you've had the same experience, but, I've been writing these people for years now. These characters, I'm not going to say like they're my best friends or something like that, because for me, it's not like that. But I've been writing them for years now, and I have to do this very sad thing. And I'm writing this scene, Tiffany, and I kid you not, as I'm writing it, and I'm just like, all of a sudden I like hear it in my throat, like, oh God, and I'm sitting there like, okay, you can do it. And of course, this is just the draft. Like, I'm going to go in and fix this later. But, I felt the catch in my throat when I got to this point where I'm like, oh God, this is going to be so awful. And then, they're talking to each other, and I finished this little movement, this little tiny, so sad movement. And I cried for like 15 minutes afterwards. I could not get it together. And it wasn't just the scene. I think it's just like a piling on of everything. Like, I don't know if it was, but man, it was just like, God, it's almost over with these people, and, and in this particular character, there, these two people who were talking, their interactions together are over. That's the last scene they're in together. That's the end. And I just...
In their lives or in the book?
In the book.
Or both? Okay.
Not going to say. And I just, oh my God, I just, and I had a meeting. I had to do an online meeting. I was writing straight up to this meeting, and I had written to the person, be like, can I get 15 extra minutes? Because I was kind of on a roll. And I'm like, okay, yeah. Can I get 15 extra minutes to work on this thing? And they're like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'm like, great. And then I start to cry. So then I'm like, can I grab 5 more minutes? And in that 5 more minutes, I'm just trying to like, you know, be like, okay, Katie, nothing terrible's happening. You know, everything's fine. Like, this is just normal life. You're just going into a meeting. You know, I'm splashing water in my face. You know, I'm trying to be like, nothing's really wrong. Everything's fine. This is a manufactured emotion. But still, such a strange, such a strange feeling. And I had heard from other writers that, you know, even if tragic things don't happen, writing the end of a book is sort of emotional. Like when you put like these people that you've been working with for so long in their last interaction with one another, you know, and you realize like that's the end. That's the end of their story as I'm going to present it, you know, as I'm going to write it, as I'm going to think about it. This is the end of these two people. It's been surprisingly emotional. And I was starting to suspect that I was getting emotional in general about it because, you know, I could be watching something totally banal on television, you know, where, you know, a mother looks over at her child and says, I love you so much. And I could just burst into tears. Like, so I'm like, clearly it's all on the surface. If you want to hear the rest of that conversation, join us over at patreon.com/the Bittersweet Life podcast. Provide that vital support for the show that is so needed to keep it going in the coming months. Thank you so much. You can find links in the show notes or at thebittersweetlife.net.